Hello, hello. How are y'all today?
Good.
Good. Did everybody have a good weekend? Anybody get to do anything fun, or were y'all just hanging out this weekend?
My family came over.
Oh, good. Good, good. That's always fun. Get to catch up with everybody. Well, good. Anybody have anything else going on this weekend? Well, all righty. Well, we'll go ahead and get started where we left off. Let me go ahead and get my screen going. We'll get ready and check our homework. All righty, so we worked with our word problems, and trying to remember, remind me, did we have any homework other than the test? No. Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was getting confused. I was like, well, I didn't write anything down, and I was thinking that there wasn't anything but the test, but then I thought, well, as soon as I say that, then I'll be wrong. Anyway, okay, well, good deal. So on Thursday, we worked on our review for to prepare for our test, and then we also worked on working through word problems, being able to look at what we're asked to do, how to organize the information, how to rearrange it, and then once we've solved it, asking, does it make sense? And so that's going to be something that you can use on any kind of word problems. If you just remember the acronym WORD, and that it stands for what, organize, rearrange, and does. And so that kind of helps you kind of have a plan when you're working things out. Okay. So the biggest, most important things, in the very beginning are, number one, what do I know and what do I need to know? What is the problem asking me to look for? And then how am I going to set that up? How am I going to organize a problem to be able to compare what information they've given me to be able to solve for whatever it is that they're wanting me to find? And so sometimes once we've set up a problem, we have to rearrange it and to be able to solve it. And then we have to say, hey, does this make sense? Does my answer make sense based on what the problem has asked me? Okay. So today we are going to be moving on to lesson 22. So we will scoot on over, and we are going to be dealing with inequalities with one variable. And so the key word here is inequalities. Okay, so we've dealt with equalities where we have an equal sign, but now we're going to talk about inequalities. And so we have basically, I guess there's 5 types of what you could call inequalities. We have got our greater than symbol, and let me get a different color pen so it'll show up on here better. Let's go with pink, should show up pretty good. All righty, so we have our greater than symbol, we have greater than or equal to, we have less than or equal to, and then we also sometimes can see a symbol that looks like that. It's the equal sign with a slash through it, and that means does not equal. Okay, so when we're talking about inequalities, it means things that are not equal. Okay, and so they're not equal because they could be greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, or just not equal to each other. Okay, so here are a couple of things that it mentions about working with inequalities. It says when working with inequalities and mathematical expressions, follow these rules. And the first thing is you may add or subtract the same amount from both sides of the inequality sign. So just like when you're solving for an equality and you have to move something from one side or the other and you add or subtract to do that, you do it exactly the same side, the same way as you do with an equality. The next one says you may multiply or divide both sides of the inequality by the same positive number. That's the big difference with multiplication and division, is if I'm multiplying or dividing by a positive number, everything stays the same. But if you multiply or divide the inequality by a negative number, you must reverse the inequality sign. So you have to flip your sign, okay? So that means like a greater than symbol would become less than. Greater than or equal to becomes less than or equal to, okay? So when we, if we were to look at this problem right here, where we have 3x is less than 12. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here. Negative 3x is less than 12. If I'm dividing by a negative 3, one of the things that I typically do, and what I'm going to tell you to do, is as soon as you either write the problem and you are multiplying by a negative or dividing by a negative, go ahead and write what you're doing and then circle your sign. That will help you to remember to flip it. Okay, so then when I do negative 3 divided by negative 3, those cancel out. So I'm going to have x, but then I have to flip my sign. And then 12 divided by negative 3 will be negative 4. Okay, so when I'm adding or subtracting or multiplying or dividing with positives, you don't have to change anything. Everything just stays exactly the same. But when I multiply or divide with a negative number, I have to flip my sign. Okay, so we're going to practice with that some today. And so basically everything that they're saying right there, we just kind of did in a nutshell right here. So let's go ahead and look at our classwork 1. Let's go ahead and look at the beginning, and it says 4x is less than 20. Okay, one of the things you can always remember, I don't know if you learned when you were little about making alligator, you know, you made the alligator face with the teeth so you could know which one was the bigger number, so you would help you understand which sign was what and all that good stuff. So just remember that my open side opens toward the larger number. Okay, so the first one says 4x is less than 20. If this was just an equal sign, I know that I would just divide both sides by 4. And I can do the same thing with an inequality. Now notice I'm dividing by a positive 4. There are no negative numbers involved here. Okay, so I'm dividing by a positive 4, so my sign stays the same. I'm not going to circle it because I don't want to flip it. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, so I'm left with x is less than 5. So that's all you do. You work at it just exactly like you would an equality, but instead of an equal sign in this one, you've got a less than sign. Now let's look at the next one. I have negative 4x is less than 20. So here I'm going to divide by negative 4. As soon as I write that negative, my brain's automatically going, hey, I got to flip my sign, flip my sign, flip my sign. And so I'm going to circle my sign. So I make sure that when I write my answer, I flip it. So again, a negative 4 divided by negative 4 cancels to be 1. So I have x is greater than, and now I divide 20 by negative 4, and that gives me a negative 5. Okay. Let's look at the next one where I have 3x plus 5 is greater than 17. I'll solve it just like I would an equality. Remember when we have multi-step equations, we are going to want to undo addition and subtraction first, and then undo multiplication and or division. Okay, so in this problem, we can see that we have an addition part of it. So we're going to undo addition using subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 5 from each side. So I have 3x is less than 17 minus 5 is 12. Okay. Now I have 3 and x together. I'm wanting to solve for x. So the way I do that, because it's being multiplied by 3, I'm going to divide by 3. I divide both sides by 3. Those 3's cancel. So I have x is greater than, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So x is greater than 4. Any questions so far? All righty, let's look at the next one. Now on this one, I have variables and constants on both sides of my equation. I think I've told you guys before, personally, I just like to go ahead and move all of my variables to the left-hand side. So that's what I'm going to do. So I can see on the right-hand side, I have a negative x, so I'm going to move it by adding. And notice that when I add, I put it underneath the like term. Okay, I wouldn't want to put it underneath the 2 because I can't combine 2 and x. So I put it underneath the 4x because those are the terms that are like terms, and I'm going to combine those. So 4x plus x is 5x minus 2 is less than 8. So we moved our variable term first. Now I'm going to move my constant term that is on my left-hand side that needs to move to the right, and that's going to be negative 2. I'm going to move it by adding. And I have 5x is less than 10. So now I know that x and 5 are being multiplied. So to undo it, I need to divide by 5, divide by 5. My 5s are going to cancel, so I'm going to end up with x is less than 2. Any questions on that? All righty. And let's look at the one underneath it. 3x plus 7 is less than 2x plus 3. I'm going to move my variable terms from the right to the left. So I'm going to subtract 2x, subtract 2x. 3x minus 2x would be 1x, and I can just write that as x. So I have x plus 7 is less than 3. Now I need to move my 7 from the left to the right, so I move it by subtracting, and I have x is less than, and 3 minus 7 is going to be negative 4. Remember, I take the sign of the larger and find the difference of the two numbers. Any questions on that one? Okay. And the last one. 6x plus 13 is greater than 5x minus 16. Again, I'm going to move my variables from the right to the left. So I do that by subtracting 5x because 5x is positive on the right side. So to move it, I have to subtract it. Subtract 5x here. 6x minus 5x would be 1x or just x, plus 13 is greater than negative 16. Okay. X is being added to 13, so I know that to be able to get x by himself, I need to subtract 13, and x is greater than, now I've got negative 16 minus 13. Remember, this is the same as negative 16 plus negative 13. So I know a negative minus a number gives me a larger negative, so that is going to be negative 29. Any questions about this classwork? All righty, then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a look at activities 2. And I want you to go ahead and work the first two on the left-hand column, the ones that I have shown on the screen. 3x is less than 9, and negative 3x is less than 9. Work both of those, and let's see what we come up with. right, is everybody finished? Trying to get more pictures of my book pages so I can load them on the iPad, but my book won't open all the way. I need to. Okay, so let's take a look at these. So on the first one, I have 3 times x equals 9. And we've talked about when I have 3 times x, I need to undo that by dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So we found that x is less than 3. But on the next one, I have to divide by a -3, and that is the point where I go, oh no, I just wrote a negative. Bells and whistles start going off in my head, and red flags are flying up, and everything's happening for me to remember that I need to circle my sign because I'm going to need to flip it. -3 divided by -3 cancels, so I have x. I have to flip my sign, and then 9 divided by -3 is -3. Any questions on that? Everybody get that okay? Everybody remember to flip your sign? That's awesome. All right, let's go ahead and do the next 2 in the middle. Go ahead and work the next 2. All righty, y'all about ready to go through those? Okay, so the first one we had, hang on just a minute. Okay, so the first thing we have 5x plus 8 is greater than 15. So we've talked about how when I'm undoing my equations, I look to see what operations I have in there, and I do the reverse inverse. And so usually, unless when you get into Algebra 1, you'll see where you have to clear fractions and decimals and things like that. But as far as most of our problems are concerned, the first thing that we're going to do when we start solving is we are going to need to undo either addition or subtraction first, and then undo multiplication or division. Okay, so usually it's going to be addition or subtraction first, and then multiplication or division. So we can look at this one and see that we have addition in the problem. So to undo it, we would need to subtract. So we're going to start with subtracting 8 from each side. And we have 5x is greater than 13 minus 8 is 5. So now I undo multiplication using division. So I divide by 5, and x is greater than 1. How'd you do? Everybody do okay? Awesome. And then the next one, I've got 2x plus 3 is greater than x minus 4. So on this one, I know that I need to combine my like terms first, and I need to have all my variables on the left-hand side. So I want to start with that. So because x is positive on the right-hand side, I move it by subtracting it. Okay, so I subtract x first. So 2x minus x is going to leave me with x plus 3 is greater than -4. All right, so now I have addition. So I know I need to undo addition using subtraction. So I subtract 3 from both sides, and x is greater than. When I have -4 minus 3, again, I could change that to adding the opposite. So that would be -4 plus -3. So that's going to be -7. How'd you do on that? All righty. Let's go ahead and look at the last two on this page. Go ahead and work those. right, y'all ready to check them? Let's go ahead and take a look. We have 3x minus 5 is less than x plus 11. So I want to go ahead and get my variables all on the left-hand side. So I'm going to subtract x from each side. And 3x minus x is 2x. So I have 2x minus 5 is less than 11. Now I've got to start undoing my problem using addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. Because I have minus 5 on the left-hand side, I'm going to move it by adding 5. So I have 2x is less than 11 plus 5 is 16. So 2x is less than 16, divide by 2, and x is less than 8. Any questions on that one? All right, and then the last one, 6x plus 7 is less than 2x plus 3. So again, I've got to move my variable term to the left. So I do that by subtracting. 6x minus 2x is 4x plus 7 is less than 3. I need to subtract 7 from each side. So 4x is less than, and then 3 minus 7, take the sign of the larger, which is negative, and find the difference, which is 4. Then I divide by 4, and x is less than negative 1. So none of these I had to flip the sign on except for that second one right down at the bottom on the left-hand column. Any questions on these? Everybody feel okay about them? Awesome. So as far as this unit goes, we've worked on, from lesson 19, we worked on writing expressions with one variable. So that was just writing our expressions. Then we had equations that had one variable, and we started working on how to undo the equations using our opposite operations. Then last week we worked on looking at the word problems and just kind of learning that formula of using the acronym WORD to be able to solve a word problem. And then today we have inequalities. And so that makes up Unit 3. We're not going to have a Unit 3 test. We're just going to have a Unit 3 assignment that I will be giving you guys. What I'll do is I will email that to y'all this afternoon. And so this Unit 3 assignment, I'll give you a week to do it. You can wait and turn it in if you want to bring in the paper copy to me at the co-op. I know some people have been having trouble with the uploads and things like that. So you can either upload it on the site, or you can bring me a copy of it on Monday when we return to the co-op. So that'll be kind of what we do to wrap up this section dealing with solving equations. It'll be solving equations with the equalities and with inequalities. And so, but I want to make sure that everybody's feeling pretty comfortable with that as we move along. So any questions about working with these inequalities? All righty then. So let's go ahead and we are going to move on to the next section, which will be kind of our next unit. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and tell you that our homework for this section is actually going to be found over on page, let's see what page that is. What this was, lesson 22. So turn to, let's see, it's going to be on page 52. Turn to page 52. And let me pull up that page on my thing real quick. Let me get that loaded up real quick. All righty. Okay, so like I said, if you go ahead and turn to page 52, your homework will be activities 5. Okay, activities 5 on page 52. That's working with equations and inequalities. Okay, and you can see the ones that have the parentheses with them. Remember how we use the distributive property to distribute the number outside of parentheses to each term inside parentheses, and then we solved by moving our variables to the left-hand side, constants to the right, and then solved for x. Okay, so that'll be our homework, is activities 5. And then, like I said, I will email you the assignment that I'll count as a quiz grade, just working on solving with variables, equalities and inequalities. I will email that to you this afternoon, and then it won't be due until next Monday. So let's go ahead and look back though on page 51. So we are getting ready to start a unit on dealing with decimals, okay? And it says here, the decimal system is a base 10 system. This means that each place value is worth exactly 10 times the value of the place to its right. So I'm sure that you've probably seen, probably at some point you would have had something that looked like this when you were doing, and we'll see how far I need to go. It would have maybe a decimal here, and then you had the ones column and the tens, whoops, come on, you go down, and then the tens column and the hundreds. It's not gonna let me write on that. And then the thousands, and then that way when you had a number and you wrote that number, you could see, like if the number was 52, you would put it in the column and you could see that you had 2 ones and 5 tens. That would kind of help you to see. But then we learned about the decimal, and then so we learned that on the right hand side we have the tenths column, TENTHS, okay? And remember that everything past the decimal has that THS on it. And then the hundredths, it's not, I don't have enough room, make this go away. Let me rewrite those real quick. I'll write them smaller so they'll fit. Tenths, hundredths, oh, that one's still isn't gonna fit, and then thousandths. Okay, and we could keep on going to, you know, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths, whatever. So if you had a number like 52 decimal to 5, you could see that that would be 52, and we would read my decimal as and 25 hundredths. And so that's what it's talking about when it says a base 10. So each column is exactly 10 times the one next to it. So it says, for example, and then the number 1, the digit 1 is worth 1. And the number 10, the digit 1 is worth 10. Then in the number 100, the digit 1 is worth 100. So it says for values less than 1, the pattern continues, but the decimal point is placed after the digit in the ones or units place to signify which digits are in place values less than 1. So 0.1 is 1/10. I'm going to highlight this. 0.1 is 1/10. 0.01 is 100th. 0.001 is 1,000th, etc. Okay? When adding or subtracting decimals, write the problem vertically, lining up the decimal points so that the digits all are in the same place value, so that they're all aligned. Okay, so you want to make sure that when you're writing your problem, you write it vertically, line it up according to the decimal place, and then you just add or subtract as usual. But you want to make sure that you put your decimal point in your answer. Okay, you don't want to forget that in your answer. So it says write zeros in the spaces where necessary to give each term the same number of digits to the right of the decimal point. So sometimes we have to put those placeholder zeros in, and we'll look more at that as we go. All righty. So as you can see on classwork, they've gone ahead and lined these up for us according to our place value and according to where the decimals are located. Okay, and all we do is add or subtract just like we normally would. So we always do this by starting on the right-hand side and working to the left-hand side. So I'm going to start first by saying 3 plus 2 is 5, and 5 plus 1 is 6. Then I move over a column, and I have 5 plus 7 is 12, and 12 plus 6 is 18. I put down my 8 and carry my 1. If you want to, you can go ahead and put your decimal there so you don't forget it in your answer. I carried a 1, so 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, and 6 plus 2 is 8. I have nothing to carry this time. So 1 plus 5 is 6, and 6 plus 4 is 10. I put down my 0, carry my 1, and then 1 plus 1 is 2. So my answer is 208 and 86 hundredths. Okay, let's look at the next one next to it. Like I said, we can use placeholder zeros when everything doesn't line up and doesn't have the same number of digits before and after the decimal. So I'm going to put a placeholder 0 there after the 0.44. I went ahead and put a 0. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 under my 9 and under my 1, just so I have something there. Okay, just so I don't get things out of alignment or anything. So I go ahead and start on the right-hand side. 0 plus 1 plus 0 is 1. 4 plus 9 is 13, plus 0 is still 13. I put down my 3 and carry my 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. And 8 plus 1 is 9. I go ahead and put my decimal in my answer so I don't forget it. I didn't have anything to carry. So 7 plus 2 is 9. And 9 plus 7 is 16. Put down my 6, carry my 1. 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 plus 4 is 11. And 11 plus 7 is 18. So my answer is 186 and 931 thousandths. Any questions on adding with decimals? Probably this is just a big review for you, something that you've worked with plenty of times before. All right, now shifting to subtraction. Okay, so remember that whenever I'm trying to subtract and I have a larger number on the bottom than I do on the top, that's when I have to go over to his neighbor and borrow a group of 10 from the neighbor. So on the first one, I have 8 minus 9. I can't do that. So I have to go over to the 3 and borrow a group of 10. So that 3 becomes a 2, and my 8 becomes 18. So now I have 18 minus 9 is 9. Again, I look to my next column and I've got 2 minus 6. I can't subtract 6 from 2, so I've got to borrow from the neighbor, which is a 0. Well, that 0, I'm going to have to borrow a group of 10 from that 1 over here and make him a 0. So that means he became a 9. Oh, I'm sorry, so now that one's a 10 because I had to borrow a group from there to make it a 10. But now I need to borrow a group from the 10, so I have to make that a 9, so this can become a 12. So 12 minus 6 is 6. Now I have 9 minus 4 is 5. Again, I can put my decimal in there. I can go ahead and put that in the location so I don't forget it in my answer. Move to the next one. I have 0 minus 7. Can't do that, so I have to go to the 5 to borrow a group, and that 5 becomes a 4. Now my 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 7 is 3. 4 minus 1 is 3. And 2 minus nothing is 2. So you end up with 233 and 569 thousandths. My dog is about to bark because the Amazon man's about to put something on the porch, so maybe he won't ring the doorbell. She had no clue. He totally snuck up on her. but I saw him walk up the sidewalk. All right, she didn't know, so she didn't bark. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our last one in classwork. We have 47 and 99 hundredths minus 35 and 478 thousandths. I am missing a digit, so I have to put that placeholder 0. When I have subtraction, I have to put that placeholder 0 in, because if I'm trying to subtract an 8 from nothing, then I can't do that. So I need that 0 there so I can perform the subtraction. Okay, so now I have 0 minus 8. I cannot do it. So 0, I'm going to borrow from the 9. It becomes an 8, and that becomes 10. So 10 minus 8 is 2. 8 minus 7 is 1. 9 minus 4 is 5. Put my decimal in. 7 minus 5 is 2. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So my answer is 12 and 512 hundredths. Any questions? All righty. Well, it is time for our break. And actually, I guess we're probably... No, we're right. I'm right on time. It's 1:30. So go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and we will come back and continue working. If you have any questions, let me know. All righty. Y'all ready to get started back? All right, so what we're going to be doing, I don't want to load, let's see. I don't want to load too much on you since I'm going to be sending you the, tell you what we'll do. Let's go ahead and we will do the first two columns together, and then we'll let the rest of this section be for homework. And then we'll do our next section, which is comparing and ordering decimals, and that'll be it for today. All right, so the first one, we have 76 and 19 hundredths plus 34 and 56 hundredths. So I'm going to add, starting in that hundredths column. 9 plus 6 is 15, put down my 5, carry my 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 5 is 7. Go ahead and mark my decimal. 6 plus 4 is going to be 10, so I put down my 0, carry my 1. 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. So 110 and 75 hundredths. Any questions on that one? Okay, we'll go to the one next to it, which is 15 and 93 hundredths plus 46 and 72 hundredths. So we start, 3 plus 2 is 5. 9 plus 7 is 16. Put down my 6, carry my 1. I'll go ahead and put my decimal in. 1 plus 5 is 6, and 6 plus 6 is 12. Put down my 2, carry my 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, and 2 plus 4 is 6. So 62 and 65 hundredths. Now I want you to go ahead and take a look at this one. Notice that I've got an 8 that sticks out at the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and put my placeholder zeros in. And I want you to go ahead and work that one. Go ahead and add up 46 and 71 hundredths plus 628 and 63 hundredths plus 293 and 458 thousandths. Go ahead and add that one up. All right, one of the main things about working decimals, addition and subtraction, I'm sure that you guys are very fluent with. And there's just a lot of room for mistake when I'm dealing with decimals because I've got to make sure I line them up properly. I want to make sure that I add the right columns properly and everything. So we just want to be super careful when we're adding. So we start at the far right, 0 plus 0 is 0, and 0 plus 8 is 8. 1 plus 3 is 4, and 4 plus 5 is 9. 7 plus 6 is 13. 13 plus 4 is 17. Put down my 7, carry my 1, and go ahead and put my decimal in my answer. 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 plus 8 is 15. And 15 plus 3 is 18. Put down my 8, carry my 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. And 7 plus 9 is 16. Put down my 6, carry my 1. 6 plus 1 is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. 968 and 798 thousandths. How'd you do? All right, go ahead and work the one next to it. Let's go ahead and fill in those placeholder zeros and go for it. All righty. 8 plus 0 is 8. 7 plus 9 is 16. Put down my 6, carry my 1. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. Put down my decimal. 9 plus 6 is 15. 15 plus 2 is 17. Put down my 7, carry my 1. 4 plus 1 is 6. Nothing to carry. And I have a 5. 567 and 968 thousandths. All right. Now we're going to subtract. I want you to go ahead and work on this subtraction problem. 93 and 497 thousandths minus 61 and 372 thousandths. They took it easy on us on this first problem, didn't they? They didn't make us borrow at all. 7 minus 2 is 5. 9 minus 7 is 2. 4 minus 3 is 1. Put my decimal in. 3 minus 1 is 2. And 9 minus 6 is 3. 32 and 125 thousandths. Any questions? All right, let's do the last one. 324 and 47 hundredths minus 65 and 91 hundredths. All right, let's go ahead and work this one. 7 minus 1 is 6. I can't take 9 from 4, So I have to borrow from the 4 next to it. It becomes a 3. This 4 becomes a 14. 14 minus 9 is going to be 5. Put my decimal in. I can't take 5 from 3, so I have to borrow from my 2. It becomes a 1, and my 3 becomes a 13. 13 minus 5 is 8. I can't take 6 from 1, so 3 becomes a 2, and my 1 becomes an 11. 11 minus 6 is 5, and 2 minus nothing is 2. So 258 and 56 hundredths. Any questions or problems? Okay, so your second homework assignment will be to finish activities 2. Okay. And then, so what we'll have is we'll have activities 2 on page, where's my page number? Well, I didn't copy it on here. So let's see what page that is. Okay, so activities 2 on page 51, and then activities 5 on page 52. I'll go ahead and write that down. So that's qualities with variable is activities 5, page 52. And then we have activities 2, page 51. All right, so the next thing we're going to go ahead and look at, we're going to go ahead and move on to lesson 24, comparing decimals. All right, so it says comparing decimals is the process of determining whether one decimal is greater than or less than another decimal. The easiest way to compare decimals is to begin working with the whole number portion of the decimal. So this is where I'm going to start highlighting. You want to start with the whole number portion of the decimal to be able to compare and see if one number is larger than the other one. If it is not, you can go to the portion to the left of the decimal point. It says if the whole number portions are not equal, then the decimal with the smaller whole number is the smaller decimal. If the whole number portions are equal, you want to compare the portion to the right of the decimal point, working from left to right. And so basically, if the digits in the tenths place are the same, you move to the hundredths place. If the digits in the hundredths place are the same, you move to the thousandths place, and you just keep moving over until you do not have equal digits, okay? So that's what you're going to be doing, is looking through, comparing based on place value until you find where they don't match up. So we're going to look at our classwork here. So obviously, when we look at the very first one, my first digit is a 1 on this one, and my first digit here is a 4, okay? And they're both in the hundredths place. So which one is going to be larger? 431 and 972 thousandths. So I just go ahead and put my less than symbol in. Now when I look at this one, I've got a 2 and a 2, a 9 and a 9. Those are both the same. So now I start looking past my decimal and I have a 5 and a 4. So I know that my first one will be greater than. I have a 3 and a 3, a 2 and a 2, a 1 and a 1. So now I'm looking at a 6 and a 7. So now I can see that 7 is larger than 6. So my second number is the larger one. I have 487 here, 487 here. After the decimal, I have a 3 here and a 4 here. So I know the first one is less than the second one. 94, 94, and then I have a 5 and a 5, and a 6 and a 7. So that's where I see I've got different digits. So my second one, again, is the greater value. So I put in my less than symbol. And then I have a 107, 107, 8, 8, 1, 1, 3, 3. So now I have a 4 after this one. If I have nothing written here, I understand that I could add zeros to it if I need to. And so I'm comparing 4 and 0. So my first one will be the larger value. Okay. So go ahead and practice. Go ahead and do activities 2 right now. Go ahead and compare your decimals on activities 2. Then we're going to work together on 3 and 4, and then move on to 5. So go ahead and work activities 2 right now. All righty, so let's take a look. We'll go down the left-hand side, then the right-hand side. So I can immediately look at this one and see 267 is before the decimal and 762 is before the decimal. So I know that my second one is larger. The one underneath that, I've got 83 before the decimals, but then I have a 6 after and a 1. So my first one is larger, so it's greater than. I can look at 16 and 16, they're the same, but then I have a 9 after the decimal and an 8, so my first one is greater. Moving on to the second column, 318, 318, I have a 7 after my decimal and an 8 after my decimal, so my 8 is larger. So my second one, so it'll be less than. 77 is before the decimal. I have a 4 and a 4, then I move and I've got a 6 and a 5, so 6 is larger, so that'll be greater than. And then I got a whole bunch of zeros with my 900, so 900, and then I have 0, 0, 0, 0. I've got a 2 here and a 0 here, so that one is larger. All right, any questions? Okay, so the next thing says we need to round each number to the nearest 10th. So remember, my 10th column is the digit right after the decimal. Okay, so I'm looking at my 10ths column, so that means I have to look to the neighbor to the right. And remember, if it's 5 or up, I would round that number up. But if it's less than 5, then I keep my number the same. So on that one, I would go ahead and write it as 14.6. Because 2 tells me I'm going to keep my number the same, and since I'm rounding to the nearest 10th, I don't have anything after that digit. So looking at the next one, rounding to the nearest 10th, I've got a 9 in my 10th place. His neighbor is a 4, so that means I keep my 9, so I round to 123.9. Let's look at the ones next to it. 615 and 99 hundredths. I'm rounding to my nearest 10ths place. I look at his neighbor, and his neighbor is a 9. So that means that this 9 is going to round up to a 10. So that means that my number in my 10ths place will be a 0. And if it goes up to 10, then that means I have to make this digit go up too. So I end up with 616.0. Okay, even if I just wrote 616, yes, they would have the same answers, but I always want to make sure that I've got whatever number it tells me to round to, I go ahead and have that place value with a 0 in it. All right, and then the next one, 4,786 and 2,500, good night. 4,786 and 2,534 10,000ths. Okay, so I'm still just looking at my tenths place. His neighbor is a 5, so that means my 2 goes up to a 3, so 4786 decimal 3. Any questions about any of those? All righty, now I need to round to my nearest hundredths. So remember, my hundredths place is going to be 2 places after the decimal. So right there, look at his neighbor. It's a 4, so that tells me I keep my 2 the same. So 6147 decimal 62. Again, looking at my hundredths place, it's a 4. His neighbor is a 9. So that means my 4 needs to become a 5. So 284 decimal 35. Questions? Move on over. Hundredths place is a 9. His neighbor is a 4, so the 9 stays the same. 15 decimal 99. Hundredths place, neighbor is an 8. That means this 9 has to become a 10, which when I do that and carry the 1 over here, it becomes a 1 as well. So I go ahead and put my 0 in for my hundredths place, my 0 in for my tenths place, and then my 3 becomes a 4, and so it's 594 decimal 00. Any questions on how we did that or why we did that? Everybody comfortable with that? All righty, and then our last little bit for today, it says to write the problem vertically and solve. So what I'm going to do to write vertically is I'm just going to go ahead and keep that first number, and I'm going to put my plus sign, and I've got 846. I'm just going to line up 846 decimal 62. Add them up. 6 plus 2 is 8. 4 plus 6 is 10. And I'll put my decimal there, carry my 1. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. Put down my 2, carry my 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 4 is 6. And 1 plus 8 is 9. 962 and 8 hundredths. Move to the next one. We'll do the same thing. We'll just line them up according to my decimal point. So 43.79. So that means I'm going to have 43.79. I'm going to put a little 0 above my 9. 0 and 9 is 9. 6 and 7 is 13. Put down my 3, carry my 1. I also put my decimal in place. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. 7 plus 4 is 11. So I put down a 1 and carry 1. And 6 plus 1 is 7. 716 and 39 hundredths. Now this one, I've got 3 digits to line up according to the decimal point. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that middle one to line everything up by, because I don't have enough room to put anything after that 5 to put enough stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and put 672 decimal 85 here, and then 5.7 here. Put my placeholder 0, and then I have 2 placeholder zeros down there. 8 plus 0 is 8. 4 plus 5 is 9, plus 0 is 9. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 plus 7 is 16. Put down my 6, carry my 1. 9 plus 1 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. Plus 5 is 17. Carry my 1. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 plus 7 is 12. Put down my 2, carry my 1. And 6 plus 1 is 7. 727 and 698 hundredths. What time is it? It is only 2 o'clock right now. So let's go ahead and have section 8 or activities 8 on page 54. So I'm going to write that down real quick. That's activities 8 on page 54. So all of our homework will be page 51, activities 2, page 52, activities 5, and page 54, activities 8. So right now we have got like 20 minutes left. And so why don't you go ahead and start working on that? And then that way I'm here to help you if you have questions on anything, okay? If you would rather work on that later, or if you want to go ahead and shut down and work on it, it's totally up to you. But you can use this time now to work on it and then have me to ask questions, or you can go ahead and dismiss early and get your work done later, okay? Like I said, I will be emailing you an assignment that won't be due until next Monday. That'll be kind of our final quiz slash assignment to deal with variables, solving for variables. So, but our homework, what do we say was, I'll go ahead and write it out so you can make sure you've got it written correctly. Page 51, activities 2, page 52, activities 5, and page 54, activities 8. That's all what is going to be due for Thursday. Noah, do you have a question? No? Okay. All right, like I said, you can use this time to work, or you can go ahead and shut down early. It's up to you. But I will be logged in, so I will be here.